good old boy and he's got a story to tell. Tavin will mow your grass and make it look so well. Now Tavin goes donut goals when in town he comes, getting strength for his haunches to cannonball for fun.
Welcome to the Tavin Dillard Podcast, y'all guys. It is the very last day, the very last episode of the season. I guess it's the last day of the season too, you'd call it, for the podcasting episode. And whew, it's been a good one. And I got questions because that's what y'all do. Is if you don't give me a question in the Q&A, it's just the I ain't even the answers because I ain't got nothing to answer. But now I do, because y'all been sending them questions. And so I'll get to them here in a little bit. I did something different this time. But usually, I let y'all know on the podcast. I thought, well, you know what? Maybe there's folks, probably there's for sure there's folks that don't know nothing about my podcast. They watch my videos on the interweb, but they don't even know I have a podcast or don't listen or whatever. And so, I don't know the ins and outs of their listening schedule or them viewing schedules. I just know that the amount of people that watch my videos is a lot more than the amount of people that listen to my podcast. So maybe they know. So maybe they need to know. They don't know. So how do they know if you don't tell them? So I put this thing on them Instagram stories, like them stories you can tell. What they do, what the Instagram stories do is they stay up for 24 hours. And you post them, and then people can just kind of click on your little profile picture or whatever. If it's got this little red kind of circly around it saying, "Oh, look, there's a story that Tavin's telling that you ain't seen." But in that story, it's usually like just a picture or something. I guess I don't have to spend half the podcast explaining social media stories to you. But anyhow, I put on there a question. Hey, I got the Q&A episode, and stuff you already know because you listen to this podcast episodes like a radio show for your ears, and say, hey, what do you want? You got a question for me? You can ask it here, and I'll answer it in, the Q&A. And lo and behold, people on Instagrams send in a few questions, so I'll be answering those too. And then a lot of y'all either texted me, or you emailed me, which that's the easiest way to track it for me. Keep up with the questions that come in, tavindiller@gmail.com. So thank y'all guys for doing that. What's new in my neck of the woods, in your neck of the woods, before we get started on these questions today? Well, we well into the Julys now, and there's some things cooking, and I don't have nothing to announce right now, but there's some things cooking with live shows, with bacon, with donuts, that I may have more information on soon. But other than that, you can just check. There's been new videos, a lot of new videos posted. I did one talking about the bad day at the beach. You can check that out. Somebody's like, hey, a bad day at the beach is better than a good day at work. I'm like, well, I ain't never been chased by a shark or stung by a jellyfish mowing a lawn when I'm working. So, I don't know if that's going to hold up completely. And then there's been some Delma Spencer activity in town, more than usual, it feels like, or maybe just my path crossed with her more than it usually does. So anyhow, I'll keep going when the new season starts next week. Well, yeah, next week, season 14. The softball season ain't ended just because the podcast episode season has. So I'll keep going on that. We ain't even into the playoffs, and hopefully we making the playoffs this year. And that like that away. So anyhow, that's all that's going on. If there's anything to put in the show notes, it'll probably just be, if you need to get yourself a summer shirt or a summer hat or a summer tank top, I'll put the link to the merch in there. Possum Keith, people are still picking up that shirt. Very comfortable shirt. And you can celebrate Possum Keith all year round. Pickle Boone hat, all that. So anyhow, that's what's going on. You can check the show notes. If you need to text me, just holler at me. Let me know what's going on, 501-322-6249. And probably in the next week or so, I'm going to have a giveaway on a live. So if you can kind of tune in to, I don't know. I've been going live mostly on TikTok and Facebook. So either of those, you can catch me with a giveaway in the next week or two. And then if you ain't sure, just text me and say, hey, when are you going live? Because like right now, as of this moment, I don't know when I'm going live. I just know in the next week I'm going to be doing a giveaway and figuring out a night to go live, maybe a couple nights in a row. So that's the best I can do. So that's what they call the housekeeping, y'all guys. And this here is the Q&A episode for season 13. So why don't we, without further ado's and further adon'ts, go ahead and get to them questions. All right, Pickle Bone. We got Adam coming in hot here. And some of these, y'all might have sent in, you missed the deadline for last season. So some of these, you might hear your name on this podcast episode and say, hey, I don't remember sending that in. Well, that's because it might have been 2-3 months ago or whatever. But I don't know, if this one from Adam is from 2 or 3 months ago or when, but it might have been one that was, came in after last season. Anyways, who cares? Adam says this. Maybe you've answered this before and I don't remember, but I was wondering if you were ever one of Chet Dilroy's junior archers, and if so, do you still arch as an adult? It's a good question, Adam. Well, I know Chet Dilroy started doing that later, more recently, so I wasn't no junior archer. Now, have I got a hold of a bow and arrow and fired it at the hay bales on the other side of the center field fence, in town at the softball fields, because that's where they practice? Indeed, I have, and I've done that where I've gone and out at that property too. Chet Dilroy, Rusty Tidwell out there where they live in the country. We messed around with a little bit of that. Now, I ain't never gone like bow hunting or nothing like that, where I take out a deer or whatever with the bow and arrow. But I think, boy, that's a skill set that I could probably get pretty good at. Be a little bit of a sharpshooter, as they say. Just take practice. There's so many things in life you might get interested in, but how you gonna get better? You got to take time to practice, and that ain't something I spend a lot of time on here lately. But if I tried, I think I could get good at it and end up hitting the bullseye, as they say, in the world of archery. So thanks for that question, Adam. And Chet's going strong with that junior archers, really helping a new generation of folks with the bow and arrow and the sharpshooting. Sylvia B., she said, so glad we found you. So apparently Sylvia and somebody else, maybe a group, maybe one other person, but she said we, found you. Just checking, do you think the words Terry and dally mean the same thing? Our neighbor came up to fetch his wife and said, I told her not to dally. Keep up the good work. Love the videos and podcasts. Thanks, Sylvia. Well, they very similar. If you dallying, here's the deal. Here's the difference. So Terry and dally, if you ain't familiar with either of them words, it basically means like you delaying, you holding up, you taking longer to get something done than you need to. Dallying's a little more like you on vacation, or you somewhere recreational. Maybe you talking to your friends down at the store downtown. It's your normal town. You ain't on vacation. You ain't like in Gatlinburg, but you just like, don't dally. Let's just get on with it. But tarrying is more for your everyday, day-to-day, kindly things like, hey, I'm picking you up from the schoolhouse. Don't tarry. Once baseball practice is over, get out to the front because I'm going to pick you up, kindly thing. Do not tarry. So it's more of your day-to-day. You're going to use that more. Dallying's with people that are just kind of like, they having too much fun, wasting time. So I hope that makes sense. But that's definitely the technical definition and the difference between the two, Sylvia. Grady says, I love your show. I've been listening since the beginning, so that's September 21, and it got me through undergrad. Oh, so that's a college that's a college word for your college schooling, I think. And I hope it can help me get through grad school. Oh, Grady's going to the grad school, getting that. So that's probably a master's degree. It means you're so good at it, they calling you the best or something. I don't know what Grady's studying. I don't know if he put that in here. But he said, I was wondering if Memaw has ever visited College of the Ozarks. I know where that's at. During any of her trips to Branson, I went to college there. Okay, so that's where you went to the undergrad. They call that Hard Work U, Grady. They call that Hard Work University because you graduate without any debt, like you work while you go there. Anyhow, you probably knew that because you went there. I went to college there. People more seasoned in age love the values of the college and watching the students work. There's also a wonderful restaurant on the campus that has a great Sunday brunch buffet. Hope you're doing well, and good luck with softball. Softball's going great, Grady. Thank you. And Memaw ain't been to College of the Ozarks. Once she gets on that strip at downtown Branson, it's on, and she locked in, and she pretty serious about staying locked in down there. Now, I have been to the restaurant at the College of the Ozarks. I think it's inside what they call the Keeter Center, if I ain't mistaken. Good food. I will say that. Good food for sure. Make your tongue slap your brains out getting to some of them dishes there. I think what I had was lunch, so I can't speak for the breakfast, but I bet it's good if lunch is any indication, kind of thing. Scott M., what do you think the chances are you could get Memaw and Mabel Childress to do a celebrity wrestling match to raise money and awareness for milk trait bihageny? Just an idea. Well, Scott, that is just an idea, because here's the deal with that. I don't think they'd call themselves celebrities. They wouldn't even know that. And I also don't think you don't plan a wrestling match, because that means, there's goodwill on each side, and it's like a sporting event, and you and the other opponent are really happy for the love of the sport and for the strength of the competition to just go in there and really put on a show. No, they don't wrestle, really, Scott. It's more of a fight. Now, Memaw has ended fights with the half Nelson or the full Nelson, and everybody's aware. The second part of this question, Scott, more awareness of milk trait bihageny. Well, with Mort Dwight-L in town, and he can't have no dairy, he's made everybody quite aware of what it'll do to his guts and what are the items that he cannot digest, or it'll cause some serious tummy trouble. So I don't know about your neck of the woods, but we don't need to raise no more awareness for that maltose rosary. None of it. And I think Scott also asked me about my Tavin's profile picture, like it's like a cartoon, like an animated picture. What they call the avatar. He says, why is the front of your neck redder than the back of your neck? Inquire in Arkansas want to know. I'm from Arkansas. Well, the thing is, the way the artwork works, I guess they was thinking the sun was coming from behind me and down on top. So my neck, my chin part of my head, where that's at, cast like a shadow on the front of my neck, best I can tell. And so because of that, got a little more red. Because it's darker. It is red, but it's almost like a shadow more than it's like a sunburn. I don't know. But I'm just guessing because I didn't draw it. But I like it. We even put that on the shirt. The Tavin's profile pic t-shirt. You can actually look that up in my bio, with that same link I mentioned earlier. You'll see it there for the merch. All right, thanks, Scott. Will Phillips, Tavin, does your town have a firehouse, a police station, a hotel, or a public library? Bank. Well, Will, did I say Wade or Will? Wade Phillips, I think he used to coach football. Anyways, Will Phillips, we got a firehouse. Ricky Don Pearson's a volunteer firefighter. Now, the volunteers don't get to have the run of the firehouse, but I'm just saying we got volunteer fire folks too. We do have a little police station. We ain't got no hotel. And the library for sure. That's where a lot of people still get on the internet. They get down to them public reputers at the library, and they can get on the internet webs without, they net it up or they web it up. I don't know. It's the internet and the worldwide web combine to make, where you can be. I don't know what makes an email go, first place. I don't know. The science behind that confuses me, but I don't quite understand the science behind a waterbed. Now, this ain't your problem, Will, but there's just some things in town that require a little extra smarts. But what you asking if we have a public library, and they probably have a book on that in there just about how an email works. But all I'm saying is, yeah, we got a public library. It's full of reputers, and it's also full of books, of course. And then they got books on CD where you can listen to a book on a CD. And they got little stickers for kids that join the reading club and that kind of thing. But they don't want you to have no food in there. Okay, Will, they don't want you to have no food in it. So we got most of that in the town other than a hotel. Now, there's some folks talking about, and Cheryl Grubbs is one of them, turning some little, back shop on their property into an Airbnb, which is like a motel that only you own, and then you let people stay there. And if they wreck it up, then you sad. But anyhow, but we ain't got no hotel. All right, Angie M. I've enjoyed listening to your podcast since season 1's. Well, Angie, that's a long time. We wrapping up season 13's today. So I've never really heard you talk about TV. Do you watch TV? Have any favorite programs? Angie, I think when I'm a littler kid, when I was little, and you get somebody that's got like cable, you watch it because you got less going on. But boy, when you get into when you're full time lawn mowing man and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to finally sit down. You sit down at night, it's either to eat or fall asleep, and I don't think about turning on television program, but in the past, I mean, there's some shows that I have liked. I used to watch that Andy Griffith show, Barney Fife, all them. Watch Dukes of Hazzard. I for sure did that. I did watch some of them game shows, them ones like A Wheel of Fortune. I don't know nobody's that got grandparents that didn't watch that thing. And then that's the other one. What's the other game show that was really popular? Well, there's one called Press Your Luck. And they show reruns of them now. Them kind of things. So game shows, I like them. Oh, Price is Right. Boy, you spin that big old wheel. You try to win like a dinette set, or you try to guess the price of a can of Raid, that kind of thing. It's real life skills. So I like that. So them would be my favorite one, Angie. But I ain't watching consistently right now. But that's that. Hope that helps. Thanks for asking. Tommy Owens. It's Tommy J, he says, from Florida, Tavin. I did have a question for you about softball teams. I know your team, Team Burger Shed, plays other local softball teams, but have you ever played other teams that come to your area from other places just to play softball, or maybe they come to just get donut hosts from the concession stand? I was even thinking to myself about starting up a softball team where I'm from and maybe trying to get, Bigfoot Flip-Flops to sponsor our team. Anyhow, just wanted to know if you've ever played teams outside your local area, and has your team ever traveled somewhere else and just whooped up on other teams? We ain't. Now, there have been some of these county tournament kind of things, and what happened was Russell Tucker, he's at a county fair, I don't know, it might have been last summer or summer before, and he's talking to fellas, people coming in from just other areas, even though it's our county, and they're saying like, hey, well, they come in, it's like, I don't know if you ever been to like a local farmers markets, but you got some of the same farmers, or these local auctions. You got some of the same auctioneers showing up in different towns doing these things. Well, at the county fair, you got people from other parts of the state and the other counties coming in, and they start talking. Anyways, they're talking to Russell about softball and saying, hey, why don't we play or whatever. But, I take it up a different level. It's a different level of organization. And, Russ is a full-grown man with a family and a full-time job like Attaway, and he's like, hey, we got our thing going. We ain't trying to, like, figure out how on top of the schedule we already have, we can play your team, on a Saturday morning. And, he got little kiddos that got their own sporting events. So we ain't done it yet. There's been a little bit of interest, but not enough to, like, go full bore on that thing. And I think the biggest thing is it takes some organization, and who's going to step up and organize it, and don't nobody care that much, at least on our team, to do that yet. But 100%, I'll tell you one thing, we'd whoop up on some other teams. Boy, they'd know they'd play at us, Tommy. I'll put it to you like that, Tommy J. All right, thank you for that question. All right, Dwayne Hess here. I'm going to give you the secret hack that all the best softball teams use. Uh-oh. Y'all got to lean in here. We about to all get some secret life hack advice from old Dwayne. He's a banjo playing, music making fella. He said, what you got to do is play Foggy Mountain Breakdown in the dugout before the game while handing out glazed twist to the other team. So there's some cost involved here is what Dwayne's saying, because if you got the whole other team and you got a glazed twist for every single one of them, they don't grow on trees. So, but I guess the idea is, you pay and it pays off later, because he says a song will get you so pumped up And that glazed twist will give you the haunch strength. Everyone will be hitting dingers. You welcome. Oh, wait. While handing out. Oh, you're handing out glazed twist to our team. I thought we were handing them out to the other team. But I guess it still costs the same. It don't matter. You helping your team with the haunch strength. I think that's right. What I like, Dwayne, firstly, is I don't know how to play Foggy Mountain Breakdown. I wish I could. I guess you can just play it on the radio. But them donut holes that we've been getting, from the concession stand, that's their little power pellets. You just pop them into a little burst of energy that you need. A glazed twist, as much as I like it, and it's good for the abdominals and different parts of your digestive system. It's wrapped together, like it's in the intestines anyway, like it belongs right inside your guts. But reason how come I wouldn't feed it to our whole team. First of all, we got just all kinds of different digestive issues going on our team. Myron got Curtis and his tender guts, and Mort Dwidell and his milk trait bihydrony. Now, I know there ain't milk that I know of in the standard glazed twist. I ain't saying that, but I am saying that it could weigh people down, or it could be too much. There's a lot of folks that don't want to do something before a big event. They don't want to eat before it because they got the jitters. They're going to have an appetite afterwards, especially if they won. Boy, they're going to be so excited. They're going to want to go eat, half a rack of ribs or whatever. But no, so all I'm saying is that ain't a bad idea. Now, I know Foggy Mountain Breakdown will get you moving for sure, boy. Get your toe tapping and then them standard glazed twists. But I might do, sprinkle in some donut holes. But you're 100% right on the song, Dwayne. That's going to get the only problem you run into is that you might pump up the other team too if you play it too loud, and then your advantage is out the window. But thanks, Dwayne, for that. Now Tricia says, "Hey, my friend, my burning question is this: if the trailer park could add an amusement park type attraction, I remember the failed zip line," she says. "What would you want it to be and why? Thanks for being a bright light to everyone. Your friend indeed, Tricia." Thanks, Tricia. Let's see. Yeah, I don't like thinking about that zip line. I thought about it so long, so many times, and it just never came together. Well, I know that story ain't over. We could still figure it out. I ain't no quitter, but we ain't had time to really dial that in yet. But if we could have a trailer park, we could add an amusement park type attraction. Well, this is my thought on that, Tricia. I think it should be a water park type attraction because then you can use it all season, like a water slide, but it goes in circles, like a little corkscrew, and then you put whatever you want to land in. You could dig a hole and make a foam pit where you got them big foam blocks in it, or you could just dig a hole and put a tarp in there, fill it up with water, full bore. But the thing is, in the summer times, you running a hose down that slide, and then all of a sudden you getting down there pretty quick. But other times of the year, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a swimming event. You could just use it as a regular slide, if it's slick enough. And I think that's what I do. A slide opens up a whole world of opportunities for you. And I think that's what I'd start with, Tricia. Thanks for that question. Jed, what color is your Ford Ranger? Well, it's a little grayish and bluish. It's kind of like two-toned, like the bottom and the top, blue-gray. And Jed also asked, what is J.T. Whitlow's girlfriend Whitney's last name? Well, it's the daddy side of the family. Like Whitney's daddy is Cody Mantell's daddy's brother, and he's a Mantell, and so Whitney's a Mantell, and so J.T. Whitlow's girlfriend's last name, that's Whitney Mantell. That's who that is. And Cody's married to Lindy Ray Mantell, and they got two kiddos, Trigger and Daphne. Okay, lastly, we need Joel Berry on the next Q&A episode. Well, Jed, Joel Berry basically, y'all guys at home, is like, I guess he'd be like in the world of entertainment, which I'm a lawn mowing man, but I got a podcast. You probably knew that, and I make social media videos, and I do live comedy shows, and sometimes you need somebody to handle that. So Joel Berry be like my manager. And Joel's been on this thing before, Jed, on Q&As if you've been listening for years. But it's only when people got direct questions for him. And ain't nobody asking him questions right now. David asking me questions, so I'm answering these. Thanks, Jed. Jennifer, this isn't a question per se, Jennifer. That's how she leads. She start with that. I just wanted to tell you about my mama. When she was a little girl, she'd make clothes for bullfrogs. I'm not kidding. She really did. She's real creative that way. Your latest podcast, and this might have been a couple of weeks ago when she sent this, reminded me of her telling me that she did this. Thank you for the laughs. You're welcome, Jennifer. Boy, clothes for bullfrogs. Boy, she get along well in our town, Jennifer. You know, Memaw, she's got them baby doll clothes. She made them bonnets for squirrels. You got Millie Ricks over there doing tank tops for Possum Keith and Baby Kevin. You really outfit the whole city. Some of the best dressed animals, in the whole Tri-County area. If your mom showed up with them bullfrog jeans or whatever she put on them. Thanks for that. And Casey D, are you a fan of the Razorbacks? I am, Casey. I am. Do you like footballs that's coming up? I do, Casey. I like the Razorbacks. I like football. Now they got a pretty good baseball team too. They did pretty well this year. Throwed a no hitter in a tournament there. But I had to confess, I mostly keep up with footballs. And they've had good basketball teams too. Baseball I ain't kept up with as much. In basketball I have over the years. 1994. You might know what happened with our basketball team that year. And what else? Yeah, so I am a Razorbacks fan. And then when it comes to baseball, being in Arkansas, I think I told you this before. You see TBS growing up, you see the Atlanta Braves, and they tell you you're America's team, or they America's team, and then you're American. You're like, well, I guess it's my team. So I do keep up with that professional baseball better than the college baseball. But yeah, I'm a Razorbacks fan, Casey, 100%. Dave Lee. Hey, Tavin, you're the base stealing pro. Well, I wouldn't say that, but I probably am. Where I play, you can't leave the bag until the ball reaches home plate or the bat. When are you taking off? You could give base stealing clinic for those of us who don't hit dingers. We just set the table, as they say on the radio. Yeah, being a table setter, it could be, people could really misundercalculate you and the strength and the help you bring to your team. But Dave, I think it's the same rule in ours. Now, we don't have instant replays or that kind of thing, and I ain't trying to cheat. I'm a man that lives his life on the up and up, as they say. But I might take off. I don't know. And my job is to get to second base. It's the umpire's job to see if I left too early, off first base. But I try to, basically what I do is it's all timing. It's all timing and then just speed. Then you just turn on them afterburners. But basically, once they in the motion, they can't throw over to first to try to pick you off. And there ain't really a lot of pickoffs in adult softball. But once they rear back to swing that arm back, they still got to swing that arm forward. Then the ball still got to fly up in the air to like a little arch, and then it's got to get to the batter, and either he miss it or he hit it kind of thing, or he don't swing at all. So at that moment, when that arm goes back, I'm off. I'm off. And by the time there's sometimes by the ball just left his hands, I'm basically standing on second base almost. You just got to time it, Dave. It's like if you don't want to get hit by something that keeps coming by, like them little something swinging in like a tether ball, and it's coming around again. Somebody just hit it. Either if you don't want to get hit, you better duck. You better duck, or you better hit it back. It's the same, but that's all timing. Like hitting a tether ball. Okay, here it comes. Here it comes. I better either duck, get out the way, or hit this thing back. And that's the same with stealing a base in adult softball. You got to tether ball it. All right, Dave, thanks for that. Chaz. Hey, Tavin, it's your pal Chaz from Jonesboro, Arkansas. I was wondering what you think the better tasting watermelon is. The watermelons from Hope, Arkansas, or the watermelons from Cave City, Arkansas. Me personally, I like the Cave City watermelons. Thank you for all the content you put out. You're welcome, Chaz. Well, here's the deal. Cave City, I think they say they like the watermelon capital of the world or whatever. And they had it rough. In this last year, they had that tornado come through, wrecked kind of their downtown. But I drove through there this past week, and it's looking a lot better. And I saw, I don't know how many watermelon stands, and they got some of the best. They, It ain't bragging if you do it. And they got some of the best tasting watermelons. And truth be told, peaches, some of the best peaches I ever ate out of Cave City. But you asking watermelons, I'm going to say Cave City. Now, the other side of this argument, Chaz, is I ain't never had a watermelon from Hope, Arkansas. So I couldn't tell you for sure how them taste. But the Cave City ones, they do it right. And they sweet. They got some big ones too. You know, they got all the sizes you want. The long ones, the oblong ones, round ones. Good helmet making watermelons. I mean, that's another thing I look for in my watermelons. And you know, this, I guess this is an argument to some people, but boy, you salt that thing and you good to go. And some people are like, well, if it's sweet enough, you don't need to salt it. Well, I'm saying if it's sweet enough, it ain't salty. You got to add that. I love salted watermelon. All right. Thanks, Chaz. Todd D. Perhaps I've missed this, he says. Perhaps. Todd, you're using some pretty fancy words just straight out the gate. Perhaps. Oh, I behoove thee. Perhaps I do. He said, perhaps I missed this, but maybe not. Who's the biggest celebrity to grace your town with their presence? Well, I don't know. You know, we had old, who was it up here? Scott was asking, you know, if Memaw and Mabel Childress would be a celebrity wrestling match like they well known, like they the celebrities. But let's see. I guess Thatch Higgins. I don't know if you heard of Thatch Higgins, but he was semi-pro rodeo in the southeast part of the state in the mid '80s, and he came through because his sister married the brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law, Chet Dilroy's, and they was in town for some kind of rodeo event, you know, probably 13 years ago. So that's the biggest one I know of off the top of my head. But they could be others. You know, I ain't necessarily got my finger on the pulse of the celebrity world, but that's what I say, Todd. Steve M says, hey, Tavin, I really enjoy your podcast. Well, thank you, Steve. I enjoy you sending in questions to my Q&A and helping the podcast. And he said, I just listened to your latest one about Danny's Water Park. Oh, yeah. They got a great queso dip. Good lazy river, too. He goes, this ain't really a question, and I've been guilty of that before, but listen here. We ain't got a Danny's Water Park here in my neck of the woods. We don't have a Jason's or a Bill's or a Ricky's Water Park either, but we do have a Danny's Barbecue. And let me tell you, if you eat there, you ain't thinking about no water park after that. You looking for a place to take a nap. Bank, keep up the good work. Well, that's a good place. I tell you though, a water park at a lazy river is a good place to take a good nap. So what you could do is go to Danny's Barbecue and then get to Danny's Water Park. I don't know how close they are because I don't know what state you live in, Steve, but that could be a plan too. But I get it. I mean, you get some good barbecue, you need to have a place to nap pretty close by. And, you know, if you drive an hour and a half, even up to 3 hours to get to Danny's Water Park, it ain't going to be worth it. You ain't going to, I mean, you want to enjoy the nap. You don't want to punish yourself after a barbecue driving for 3 hours and then trying to find a nap. But, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to keep an eye out for old Danny's Barbecue. All right, let's see what we got next. Thanks for the question, Steve M. Roberta on the Instagram says, we know about Brett. Any other Skeletors in the closet, she asked. Well, I ain't saying Brett's like a Skeletor in my closet, because that's basically like, oh, I'm hiding something I don't want people to know about. Everybody knows about Brett. He's full. He's wide open. He's out in the world doing what he do. I wouldn't say there's anything else, you know, as far as family members, that they don't come more ornery than my Memaw and my brother Brett. So everybody else basically looking like a borderline angel, you know, compared to them two. But that's how it goes. But no, not that I know of. Now, if there's a more specific question laying in there, Roberta, you can ask it. But as far as, you know, other folks like Brett, no, thank heavens. He's the only one. I seen him yesterday. That's a story for a different time, but I seen him yesterday. All right. Here's the Instagram ones, and so I don't know their name. I just know what do they call it? They handle. At W Sturchak says, Tavin, what type of, it says year equipment do you use? I think it means yard equipment or lawn equipment, probably like my work equipment. What kind do you use? Do you have a sponsor like Steel? Uh, no, I mean I ain't kind of like beholden to one brand. I've used a Ryobi, I used a Craftsman. We talking push mowers here and edgers, that kind of thing. Wouldn't be, I ain't opposed to having no sponsor, but ain't nobody reached out. So I was like, well, I'll just keep using what I like or what works, and mix and match. I know some people that they go all in on one kind of tool maker, that kind of thing. Um, I ain't got that kind of loyalty, and not that I'm not loyal. I just ain't got a reason to just have all the same. And so and some of it you just collect over time, and that's how that go. All right, thanks for that, W Sturchak at Instagrams. We got a few more here, and we're gonna wrap it up. Rockabilly 0891 on Instagram. Which video is the hipper powder mouse? I can't find it. Wanted to show my buddy. That's a good question. Well, you bring up a really good question. I mean, I've done a few where I talk about the hippopotamus at the zoo. Them big old animals, they got powerful jaws. But, and I don't know if you're talking about the original one, like the first time I posted about it, or, my other stories where it's come up into conversation or whatever. But even like cataloging, I guess, my videos on social medias ain't something I done. So, uh, your guess is good as mine. Like, you just kind of got to scroll back and try to find it. I mean, I don't think there's no hippopotamus hashtag that I put on it or nothing like that. But it'd probably be something about the zoo. That's usually when I'm talking about it. So you might find like Tavin Dillard Zoo or something like that and see what comes up. Who knows what'd come up if you type that into a search bar. I'd be interested in knowing what you find out, though. All right, thanks, Rockabilly. All right, Lear Flynn 904 at Lear Flynn 904 there on Instagrams. Do you repair your own mower, and what donut do you recommend for fixing things? Well, that's what we call a two-parter. So let's get to the first one here. No, I don't repair my own mower. You might know Donnie Wayne Chambliss in town. I bought my '93 Ford Ranger from his sister. That don't matter no how, but Donnie Wayne run a repair shed out by the lakes, out by fishing clips that bait and tackle that Rance Farnhart runs. And so, I mean, partly because I don't want to, you get to a point where uh, maybe you can fix some things. There's a lot of things you can do, but you got a limited amount of time. And so I want to focus on what I'm good at, which is lawn care. And Donnie Wayne, if he can focus on what he's good at, which is repair, then I can get better at what I'm already pretty good at, and I ain't got to go sideways with my time or energy or mental focus on that. Now, there are little things I'll tinker around and fix, but you talking full-blown repair, I'll take that to Donnie Wayne and pay him like that away. And what donut do I recommend for fixing things? Well, I mean, the brain food is one of the best ones. Half an apple frittler will really give you the mental clarity, as they say, to focus on it. So that'd probably be the one I go to. But honestly, I had a lot of success with a standard glazed donut. I'll tell you right now, standard glaze, get to working, because it's working with you. So you need to get to working, and then your teammates, with the standard glaze. So that's what I say on that. And then finally, Michael Grussing, at Michael Grussing, he's on Instagram, says, is the movie still in the works? That's a good question, Michael. Well, here's the thing. It's a wonder. It is a wonder that any movie ever gets made or any TV show ever gets made. Now, I say that in one breath, and then you thinking, well, Tavin, have you looked on any of them streaming services? You know how many movies they got, how many movies you probably never heard of, or TV shows? Then you thinking, you say it's a wonder any ever get made, Tavin, but I'm over here saying, boy, they making all kinds of stuff I ain't even never heard of or had the time to get to. So somebody's making stuff. And there's some truth to that too. Folks is definitely making stuff. But to get the right, well, you need money firstly, right? So then let's talk budget. I'm a businessman, and so I think about business anyhow. But when it comes to a movie, you need somebody that's either providing money, like an investor, or you need to have a bunch of it, like from saving, paper route or whatever you did to get the money. So all I'm saying is that no, there's no movie actively in the works. Now, is there a screenplay? Yeah, the screenplay is done, and there's also other scripts done for TV. So for film and TV, there's work that's already done as far as like, for TV. Well, we'll start with TV. I got a pilot, what they call a pilot episode written for a TV show for Tavin's World, and probably 4 or 5 episodes of that season. And I got a separate pilot written. So there's kind of 2 options for a pilot episode, which is like your first episode of your TV show. So I got stuff wrote out and ready to show people, but I ain't, it ain't in the works. Same with the Tavin movie, the screenplays, what they call it, the words and what people are saying to each other and where they are and all that kind of thing. That's done. And so it's almost like now I got stuff ready to go. Anybody want to talk? Like that away. So that's where it's at. It's just a waiting game. In the meantime, I'm doing the podcast and doing the social media posts, working on some live show stuff. Like I said, may have some more news soon on live show, and then a couple other projects. Right now they maybe a little more than a conversation, but they ain't enough to be like, hey world, this is what's going on. So that's how that go. Well, I don't know how long I've been talking for, but long enough to answer your questions. Hopefully you got them in time. If you didn't, it may get added to next season's Q&A would be the plan. So I appreciate y'all. There's a lot of things you could have done today, and tuning into my podcast didn't have to be one of them, but it sure was. And thank y'all, everybody that sent in a question for the Q&A. That's what makes this thing go. Question and answer don't go without questions. So y'all did awesome, and y'all know I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out and tuning in. And go ahead and share this. If you're on Apple Podcasts, there's a way where you can leave a comment too. New comments would be a big help. Just continue to let people know this podcast exists. Like I said, like last week, I ain't sponsored by nobody. Nobody's paying me to do this. So at some point, I probably have to decide how bad do I want to keep doing the podcast, because you trying to provide something for your friends out there in the interweb world, but you also, like I said, I'm a businessman, so I got to think, how much time can I give to this thing? But right now, the plan is to keep on going and start season 14 next week. But anyways, if you could do the stuff that don't cost you nothing, just to share it with people, leave a comment and rate it. Those ratings, the more ratings, we're getting close to 1,000. I think we almost to 900 ratings. I think it'd be good to get to 1,000. So if you could just rate it on Apple Podcasts today, that'd be a hoot. If you're on Spotify, that's fine. I ain't mad if you rate it there or leave a comment. So thank y'all guys, not only for sending in questions for the Q&A, but for tuning in for another season of the Tavin Dillard podcast. I sure appreciate it. I appreciate the support and how y'all hang with me here on the interweb. So today you'll see where you can check in the show notes for my merch if you want to see what's all going on there. And then you can always email me, tavindillard@gmail.com, or text message me, 501-322-6249. Them are the ways to do it. And I surely appreciate you. And hey, if you ain't a squirrel, a possum, or a bullfrog with an outfit, you kindly missing out. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in season 14. I'm Tavin Dillard. This is the Tavin Dillard podcast. Till next time, y'all guys. We'll see you later.